of these topics of interest for me. I've been curious of these things since as long as I can remember. And, a lot of people don't care to go there as far as how deep and unhinged I can be with my views on the felt presence of experience in this life, the empirical data that we glean from our senses and our mind. And one thing of interest I want to talk about right now is not just telepathy, but what Rudolf Sheldrake talked about a lot, the morphic resonance, which I don't claim to know a whole lot of that. I find it fascinating, and I'm still a student with that concept. But I've always, before I've even heard about him, there's other people that talked about collective consciousness and what that is, and where exactly our mind, our consciousness resides. Because a lot of people, at least in the scientific community, seem to think it's just in the brain, which it's definitely there. But the way I see it, it's in all of my nerves. Like my hand, when I play guitar, that is a part of my brain. There isn't a whole lot going on up here other than my hands and my ears working together. And if I get out of the way just enough, or it's kind of like surfing. It's like you catch a wave and you just are balancing along on that wave. And anyways, not to go too into depth on that, but I think our mind is kind of more of a collective consciousness thing than we realize. And there's lots of examples for this. Sorry, I'm yawning a lot because I've got pressure in my ear. There's a lot of examples for this, like when you're thinking of someone and all of a sudden they call you or text you, and those kind of synchronicities, or like how a dog will know 20 minutes before their person gets home. It's like they pick up on something. Or like how starlings, when they're flying, can all turn at the same time. It's like not only can they just completely do the same thing as the whole flock, or the whole group of them, they can, it seems like they anticipate the move, or they're of one mind. They're synchronized. And of course, lots of other animals, fish, we see that. And I've always thought about that because I think prayer is a real thing. Well, I mean, obviously it's a real thing as far as people doing it. My brother said this really profound thing to me once. I don't know, I was talking about some concept or prayer or something, and he just blurted out, every thought is a prayer. And that's just stuck with me ever since. That's wow. I mean, he probably wasn't the first one to come up with that either, but that's profound to me. I feel like there can even be tension if I'm mad at someone, but I don't say anything to them, but I'm thinking maybe negative thoughts. I think there's something there, and I feel like I've also been on the receiving end of that, where it's there's some unspoken tension or pressure, or feelings are so hard to describe. And I think feelings get reduced to something of less value than what they truly are to us. feelings are the things I have the hardest time with in this life, because although I try to accept all of them, there's some that are more like invasive thoughts in the way where they're like intrusive. They are not of the energy or the vibe that I am trying to move in, that I am choosing to move in. Like, say for example, here's a classic one. Like, maybe someone I was in love with a few years ago, in a romantic way. It's like I've resolved all that, it's over, it's in the past, but it continues to occasionally just get in there, and maybe thoughts that I know aren't true are trying to push their way in. And I'm like, I've already made my decision. Like, I'm resolute on, it's like the neutrality of being at peace with someone, even if, just because our lives went in different paths, it doesn't mean anything against them or anything against me. We all change. And I do like how relationships split apart, because, if you're just with the same person the whole time, yes, that's beautiful, but you can grow and learn so much if you have different relationships with different people. Because different people will teach you different things and show you different parts of yourself, and you'll interact with different people in different ways. I hope I'm not just being like super obvious, like duh. But I just like thinking about these things. And so anyway, going back to the collective conscious, one model I have for myself is I want to be in love with everyone. Like, not romantically, obviously, but I want to have that feeling of that. I just appreciate them. Because when you're in that state of love, it's like that's an emotion that just gets tossed around and it's cheesy and stuff, but everyone feels it. It's a powerful thing. It's the most powerful drug. And it's a sustainable one. That's why it's not thought of as a drug, because drugs have that stigma of being like evil and problematic and addictive, which they are. And we addict to love and people as well. We're just addictive in general. And some people are less hungry than others. Like, some people are just satisfied, and too much would be like anxiety for them. And I get that, because I have that with some things, but mostly I just have an undying curiosity that comes from maybe the opposite of being sensitive in some ways. Like, I'm just bored by things, like they're too predictable for me. Not to say everything in life is predictable, but most things are predictable. Even if I kind of didn't see it at the time, in retrospect, I was like, oh yeah, that's not out of the ordinary by any means. Not to reduce things like that, but what I'm getting to is that if you're in a state of love and loving and appreciating someone, you have this energy, you have this intention, you have this consciousness that can perceive and appreciate and just feel and be in that presence. And so being able to choose your felt presence of reality is what I'm going for. And a lot of people are going for that. And a lot of people are going for it that don't even realize they are, or wouldn't word it that way. This is just the way that I'm emphasizing these aspects of being human. That's part of what makes everything so heavy here too, is that there's a lot of a distortion and feedback and stuff in the collective consciousness. Like, there is not peace here enough for people to really be at ease, and when you're at ease, you can function properly. If you're functioning in a state of panic, or you're really angry, you're like, it's like your intelligence is way like lower than what you are actually, it's like what your intelligence actually is. Like, you'll mess up, you'll do things not carefully, maybe, unless you have a huge self-control, which then, you know, that's a beautiful gift. I wish I had a huge patience. I do for some things. I've gotten way better at not having road rage. I tried to have that compassion. I mean, you don't know if the person in front of you is like having a stroke or something. I mean, it'd be horrible to just be like so mad at someone. And so I don't choose to be in a state of anger, even though it happens to me a lot. And that's another way to iterate what I've been saying about how much of a choice do we have over how we feel. Because how we feel is so fundamental to how we are, because how we feel is also how we be. So these are really fundamental things that I think are really worth talking about.